Overall Setting Podcast. Overall Settings. You know you are the leader now. You're taking over with speed now. Overall Settings. Yes, you're on the go. Everybody want to watch your show. You're watching Overall Settings Podcast. Boom, Overall Settings.
I'm used to hearing it's a matter of time before anything I'm hoping for is sure to be mine. And I do believe it, and no hurt get to receive it as I keep these words in my mind each and every time. Just prepare for it. Just prepare for it. Who knows it could happen tonight, and it could happen to knows, but who really knows? Who knows, but who really knows? Death sneaks upon you like a thief in the night. Since we're not sure if it's a robber, we gotta live right, though we might get distracted by the things that are outside. We can't go blindly when we enter the light. Before we enter the light, just prepare for it. Just prepare for it. Who knows it could happen tonight, and it could happen to knows, but who really knows? Who knows, but who really knows?
You know that feeling where your thoughts scare you or make life tough? Sometimes it feels like no one else in the world has those thoughts or feelings. No one seems to know how difficult it is to deal with your feelings. And it's not easy to share your deepest secrets. You might think something is wrong with you. Or you might worry what other people think. And all of that makes your thoughts and feelings worse. Our culture has created this environment of shame. Until the 1960s, society sent people away if they had challenges managing their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Over time, we learned that we didn't have to be afraid. We learned how to help people get better. We became hopeful. But there are remnants of those images in our culture today, which is why some people still feel uncomfortable talking about it. The stigma has taken new forms too. With more access to more people all the time, it can seem like the world is telling us it's not okay to be anything but perfect. The truth is, everyone has thoughts or feelings that can be hard to deal with. So why do we make it so difficult on ourselves by judging others who could be going through the same challenges we are? What if, instead of seeing labels, we saw people who are struggling and could be there for them so they didn't feel so alone? What if we looked past our fear of mental health and started to talk about it in a constructive way? What if, as a society, we used empowering words and healthy images to help people feel supported? Maybe then more of us could feel comfortable telling others when we're having a hard time. Maybe more people would get the help they need. And maybe one day we won't have to talk separately about mental health and physical health, but just health. The truth is, each of us has the power to change our culture. Will you join us? Share this video with a kid, your neighbor, a friend, and help us break the stigma of mental health.
Yo, ladies and gentlemen,
Yes.
this is not just another episode of Overall Settings. This is how would you label this? This
Oh
is
man, this is
this is unlike anything that we've ever done before.
but we leave nothing out.
We
We
leave
leave
nothing out because
nothing
and
out.
we have a understanding of what's needed. We feel, you know, a what do you call it? It's our duty, you know, once we started this platform to change the narrative. That's why we are the podcast that
That
differs.
differs. Yes.
You know, for the most part, for a lot of people come over here and they see their favorite artists. They see artists that they haven't seen in a long time. We drop a few news stories. We do alternative programming like After Dark. We do a wide variety of things over here. But tonight is something altogether different.
Yeah, something we never had before.
Yeah, yeah,
So this is special,
yes, yes,
very
yes,
special.
yes, 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 yes. You know, if you're a human being, you have felt depression. You have felt sad. You have felt anxiety. You have
Hmm.
all of these are
Anger,
yes,
which
yes,
anger leads people to do things they probably normally wouldn't do, but they're so
yes,
angry they let the anger get the best,
yes,
and
yes,
they do
yes.
things that that's really dramatic, or you know to a
Yeah,
whole different level where like it gets them in trouble.
yeah, yeah. I
So
mean, we've all felt these things, and these things, while they are natural, in Jamaica we say that too much of one thing is good
good for
for
nothing.
nothing. So if something is excessive, then
Something something not good is gonna come
yeah,
from
yeah,
it.
or if something just doesn't go away, and it's just pending, and what I mean, then
Mhm.
at that point it becomes chronic. It becomes something that needs to be addressed. But a lot of times we kind of like with our day-to-day hustling, you got to be to work, so you ain't got
and
time to
and
think
and
about
and within our culture, it's it's we tend to be so
yeah, yeah,
hardcore,
yeah,
like,
yeah, 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 yeah.
no, I'll handle this myself. People don't need to know
Right,
about this.
right, right. So, big up to Shifty, wherever you are, for tonight's guest. You know what I mean? You mentioned it to me, and before I even knew fully, had a full understanding of what all of this was about, we accepted. We willfully accepted, this, and we hope that the people that are on the live now can take something from this. We hope the people that watch this 5 years from now can take something from this. And we all know that once we send this out into the atmosphere, that it will be there forever. So even we might not even live to see the benefit that it has
Right,
on
because
somebody that needs to hear whatever's going to take place here tonight. But we know that we're making our contribution to society. We're making, we're staying true to our word of having a platform that's going to change the narrative, and that's what this is about. So without
because
any
we don't do this for just the here and now.
right,
We do it
right,
for
right, right,
future.
right, for the people who are not even born yet,
Yes,
you know
because this is here forever.
right. So enough of our banter, and things of that nature. um our good friend
Mr. Kelly in
Kelly
the
just walked into
building.
the building.
Mhm.
He's a proprietor. He's a philanthropist, and he's a good guy.
Eh, eh,
He's
eh,
been our brother for
eh,
the
eh.
past 30 years.
So so
So we want him.
he want to, Kelly, come
Hold
with
on,
a
hold on,
seat,
hold on.
man.
We want him. We want
Come
him
with
to. We want him to first and foremost, we want to give a very warm overall
Right.
settings welcome
Yes,
to our
yes,
guest. So we
yes,
need
yes,
we
yes.
need his hands to make a contribution to that cause. I'm not sure of how to say the last name, so we're going to call her Miss Yadi, and then she's gonna, obviously, elaborate on
Pronounce
how
her
we should
name
be
the
pronouncing it. But
proper way,
without
right?
further ado, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, you're in for a treat. You know, um, welcoming Dr. Miss,
Yadi.
Yadi to the platform.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I really feel the energy, the enthusiasm, the welcoming. I really appreciate it. Shout out to the both of you as well as to Shifty for making this possible. It is an honor for me to be with you guys.
Right.
And my last name is Cicada, so I am Yadi Cicada. I'm a mental health therapist, and I'm here to collaborate and add to the intention that this program and podcast holds.
Wow. Wow. And and
Thank
and
you,
and
thank
and,
you,
and
thank
we
you.
it's much needed. I mean, we tend to make jokes a lot of time. Oh, I'm crazy, and I mean that word is just so loosely thrown around. Or you crazy, or get your crazy ass out of here, or what I mean, whatever the case may be, and it's so loosely thrown around. I don't think that we realize how much that could like mean to people who are really going through something that they might not even understand, and us, it makes it worse when we don't have an understanding of what they're going through as well. So hopefully we can help some people who are going through something at some point in our life, because the reality of the situation is even your favorite mental health therapist needs mental health therapy at some point or another. I mean, so
Yes, that is true. That is true. I am a witness to it. I go to therapy myself whenever needed, and it's often needed. So, yes, yes, yes to everything.
right, right, right. So just give us some before we get into whatever it is we're going wherever the night leads us. Just give some people some insight to like who you are, why you even chose this particular profession, and just kind of how you got into it.
Okay, well, first and foremost, thank you to everybody watching and those of you that are going to be watching in the future, near future, or 5 years from now. And like you guys said, to those that are not born yet that can benefit from this.
Mhm.
My name is Yariela Sequeira. I'm a mental health therapist in the state of Florida. I started this journey when I was a little girl without even knowing it because, like every human on earth, we all carry a story within a story. And my mother and my father had their very unique story, just like any other couple out there. And my mother went through a series of painful stages in her life within the relationship with my father. And at the time, she didn't have many people out there or felt ashamed or guilty about what was going on inside her home. So I guess, like some parents do, she confided in me as a little girl, which, as we all know, has an impact on all of us. And at the time, I was in my preteens, teenager years, and I remember saying to myself, I want to understand more of what my mother is going through, and I wish I could help her more. And that planted the seed of me wanting to become interested in learning about psychology, mental health, how trauma impacts us, and what we can do about it, not only for her, but also for myself.
Mm.
So that started everything else.
Oh
So
wow.
so at that time when your mom confided in you, was it more physical abuse, mental abuse? Because we can talk about it all.
Yeah, my dad had a long history of infidelity. So there was not really a physical abuse. It was more, emotional abuse that the both contributed to, because infidelity comes with a lot of shame. It comes with a lot of secrets. It comes with a lot of painful moments in silence. There's a lot of stigma associated to it. And from the generation that my parents were from, within the culture that they're from, because they're Hispanics, it was very common for the Hispanic men to engage in extramarital affairs. And it was very common for the women to understand that that was part of a possible dynamic in a relationship. Yet that doesn't mean that they didn't go through a whole set of emotions that came with it.
Right, 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 right.
So you got started on your journey very early. And that was approximately what
Yes.
age, about 12, 13.
Yes, I remember, I said I want to understand. Then at the school I was in, one of the electives, actually it wasn't even electives because I studied in Honduras, and the middle school, high school format of education is that everybody has 12 classes and they're not electives. You take all of the 12 classes. And one of the classes was sociology, anthropology, and psychology.
Mhm.
And that for me solidified my interest because I was very early on exposed to what those fields were. And I said, when I graduate, I want to pursue this field.
Mm. Well, so you knew from the outset. A lot of times, that works in a lot of different manners. And I say that to say, sometimes,
What's
it
the saying we say?
what do you say?
It choose her. She didn't
Yeah,
choose
yeah,
him.
yeah, definitely. No,
You
no,
know.
but I was also saying that to say, a lot of times, you know, forms of, the road that people take, a lot of times it's like sometimes even genetic. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like when you really think about it, like or like circumstances, like certain circumstances. So like for instance, Yadi changed the negative into a positive. You know
Right.
what I mean? But you
Right.
have a lot of children who endure or witness what she witnessed, and they either become their mother all over again or worse.
Right.
You see what I'm
Exactly.
saying? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So a lot of times, the things that you witness from a very young age, or what you're born into, you know what I mean,
Hmm.
whether it be what's happening in your own household, or even what takes place around you in
Right.
society, or
Right.
are you even, like, she kind of even broadened the horizon, where she said, the scope of things, I should say, when she said it's kind of traditional for, infidelity to be a part of, that particular culture. And that's the same thing in Jamaica,
In
and
our culture, yes.
even here, you know what I mean, like a
Yes,
lot
to
of
an extent, yes.
a lot of people have children out of wedlock, or there's a lot of, we did a whole movie about, having a child that didn't grow up with their family because of the separation, and you know what I mean. So there's a lot of children that have, endured, these type of things, and I'm saying,
We, yeah.
and I take my hat off to you
We
for
have to, for the
choo-
simple
choosing that route,
yes.
choosing that route, because you know
She took her negative and turned into a
yeah,
positive
exactly.
and
Anybody
made a
that can do
career.
that
Yes.
in any facet of life, you know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Because it's so easy to just throw your hands up in the air and be like, well, my dad wasn't ish, and I'm not ish, and I mean, my dad wasn't ish, so I'm not going to be ish either. You know what I mean? Or you can
Yes.
literally turn
Or it's
a
coins
negative.
you that you
Right,
just,
right,
focus on
right,
negativity,
right,
you
right,
know.
right, right,
But
right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Now, to add to that, I thank you for your words, and at the same time wanted to expand on the fact that it takes a while for us to fully understand or get close to understanding a little bit more
Mhm.
what happens for you to get to a place where you're turning a negative into a positive, right? It's not an easy one day to the next step, and that's where I found the beauty in therapy, because it allows you to expand your story. It allows you to look at your story from a different perspective than what you've been telling yourself or other people have been telling yourself. And that's really the goal within my experience and the therapy that I offer, that I share with those that come to see me or those that ask about therapy. Right? At the beginning, you guys were saying that narratives are so important, and it's true. I was in the backstage nodding my head, because the narrative is one of those key words that casts a spell. Words are spells. And when we say, oh, my dad was this and my mom was that, that's a narrative.
Mhm.
Then what therapy offers is, okay, dad was this, mom was that, I was the other. What do you want to do with all that in the first place? And let's explore areas of those stories that maybe you haven't considered from a different perspective, because you were a child from the age of 5, 6, 7, 8 that didn't have this part of your brain developed to consider other factors of the story. And there's a lot of sadness that is there in the body or in the memories of our stories that wasn't processed because we didn't have the tools at that age or that phase of our life or that mindset that we were in to apply it, to expand and dissect that, so that we are able to liberate the burden of the weight that it might carry. So, stories, when it comes from a mental health aspect, are honored with the intention to be dissected, expanded, explored, and for you to release through them.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I mean, so generally, you know, what I see, a couple letters behind your name.
Yes.
What do they mean?
Stand for, it's licensed mental health counselor.
Okay.
So anybody that has a master's degree
Mhm.
and even a doctorate degree has a licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida
Okay.
initials
So what does acquiring that type of
of letters.
yeah. What does that entail? Like what do you have?
Okay.
2 years
So
of school and
yeah, usually you have to go and study a bachelor's in the field. It could be sociology, anthropology, psychology, something related within the social sciences. Then, if you want to pursue it further, you go for a master's, and it is the master's that allows you to get these letters. So, the master's is usually a 2 year program of classes, followed by a 1 year internship, followed by 2 years of supervision. So it's a program of 5 years. And then if you want to expand that into adding psychological testing into your repertoire, then you go for a doctorate because only doctors are allowed to test
okay.
without having to be supervised. So a doctorate is a 6 year program added to the 5 year that you already completed. But out of those 6 years, the first 2 years are the masters,
Mhm.
followed by 2 years of internship and a thesis.
Okay.
That's a lot of work.
So so
Yeah.
so so what level do you have to be at in order to be able to prescribe meds and things of that nature?
So mental health counselors and psychologists do not prescribe. The
Okay.
ones who prescribe are psychiatrists.
Okay.
Psychiatrists are normal doctors
Okay.
that decided to take a specialized course in psychiatry, which is medication for dealing with mental health concerns.
Okay. So, when you're and you're from where you are, like as like what jurisdiction do you have over? I mean, what's the word that I'm looking for?
Before
Like
you
what?
even get to that, I want to ask her, like, honestly, what I mean, on a percentage wise, how much people do you get with this?
For
This,
mental health,
yeah, yes.
okay, well, I am currently part-time. Part-time, that means I only do from 4 to 5 hours, 3 times a week therapy sessions because I also have a day job,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And within those 3 days, I see an average of 12 to 15 people
Hmm.
In three
in
three days.
in
Wow.
in
Oh
in
wow.
15 hours.
Oh wow. Oh
Wow.
Yeah.
wow.
So it's
Wow.
a
Wow.
very serious issue.
So it is very much needed, and COVID in actuality came to assist the people that wanted to break certain patterns and apply a different narrative because COVID allowed some people to realize that they were not happy with the way things were going for them, that they were stressed out at work, that once they were living in with family in the same household without being able to go anywhere, they realized that their family dynamics were not where they would have wanted them to be.
Hmm.
So COVID facilitated for mental health therapy to become more of a talked about real life need and concern than prior to.
Oh wow. Wow.
Hmm.
Wow.
Hmm.
I mean, it's
Hmm.
so there's is there like different levels of I mean mental illness? How do you determine like how do you even you know what are some of the characteristics or different degrees of mental illness or what are even some of the types that you deal
Okay.
with or how you detect it?
So that part or that question is where it gets tricky because then we go into the different narratives that therapists hold. When I went to school, we were taught to diagnose because there was something wrong with you. And most of them, of those diagnoses were uncurable. You were with a big issue, right? So within that perspective, you have childhood disorders, and that's where the famous ADHD comes into play because it's part of one of the childhood onset diagnoses.
Hmm.
Then you have the adult disorders, where you go into personality disorders or mood disorders, just like anxiety and depression, OCD. Then you have the substance use disorders, which obviously have to do with any illegal or illegal substance that you are exceeding yourself with that has become an issue in your life. And then there are other disorders like sleep disorders, sexual disorders that are part of the diagnosing. So, from the classical school perspective, you would come in to see me. I would diagnose you based on a famous book called the DSM, which is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual for Disorders. And then I would tell you, okay, this is where we realize that whatever it is that you're suffering from is here to stay. That's the classical diagnosis. And that's why a lot of people would have a reaction and see it as a stigma, because from that narrative, it doesn't make you feel any better, right? Like you're stuck with something that is not fun and it's not nice and it doesn't even sound healthy. From the perspective that I apply mental health, I'm a full supporter, no longer a full supporter of diagnosing, because I realized that the diagnostics in the book are very limited. They come from a specific perspective and they don't consider culture, they don't consider backgrounds, they don't consider experiences, they don't consider a bunch of these other societal and environmental factors. So it's very limited. And I also believe from my experience that whatever it is that came into your life as a dis-ease is because there's a source to that disease, right? If I eat something today and then in a couple of hours or tomorrow have diarrhea, there was something that caused that diarrhea. Right. That doesn't mean I'm going to have diarrhea for the rest of my life. But if I don't take any Imodium, it's probably that it's going to last longer. If I don't take medication, it's going to last longer. So the concept is, let's find out what is it that did not settle well with you. Let's find out where that's coming from. And that's where we go from mental health to heart health.
So on that note, is there a way a person can really say tell where they there's signs of they're showing themselves that they have an issue? Is there certain signs?
Yes, there's many different signs, and one of the most common ones that we all use in our day-to-day routines is denial. Right? Denial is a big one, because when a lot of people are mentioning something to you, whatever that is, and you're like, no, I'm fine, I'm good, whatever. I don't have to agree with what you say. The more people come and let you know that, and the more you reject that idea, then you're in denial about something, right? So denial is very common. Behavior patterns, that's another way to look at, what's going on with the person. When somebody has anxiety, there's a lot of isolation, for instance. The same thing with depression, because anxiety stems from fear. So whatever it is that is making me anxious is going to make me want to protect myself because I'm in fear. Therefore, I'm going to isolate. And there are different types of anxiety. So for instance, social anxiety is the constant fear of judgment from others. So I maybe stop driving. I maybe stop going out. I maybe stop talking to my friends because I'm in constant concern that they're judging me. Right? And it's a very silent condition. Right? When it comes to depression, it's very similar. And per the CDC, right, depression and anxiety are the #1 in this country because there's a lot of isolation. There's a lot of lack of community support. There's a lot of wanting to be understood and yet not knowing how to say it. So there's a lot of silence that accumulates pain over pain over pain over pain. And then people start retreating.
I know that probably per state, a lot of different laws may apply. I know here in Pennsylvania, as I have a family member that suffers from mental illness, and one of the challenges that we faced was after when they reach a certain age, they have to give their own consent for treatment. And sometimes, you know, they can be kind of detrimental not only to their own existence but to others. And if they don't exhibit that type of behavior in the presence of, you know, an authority, like a health person, or like well, basically they don't pose a threat to themselves at that particular time when they're being observed. A lot of times they kind of slip through the cracks.
Yes.
I don't know what type of constraints they have down there where you
Okay.
are, or but I feel like, at least where I'm at from my vantage point, I feel like that needs to be addressed. And because someone who went to jail, did their time, they probably, some of them didn't even do like major crimes, but they can't get their hand on a gun, but someone who's mentally ill can.
Yes, yes. So going back to the different categories of diagnosing in the DSM, mood disorders, that includes anxiety and depression, also includes a little bit more intense mood disorders like
Yeah.
schizoaffective disorder or schizophrenia, which is, one of the big boys out there.
Hmm.
Now, schizoaffective and schizophrenia, for instance, are usually heavily medicated because they're diagnosed usually when the person is 18, 19, 20. So if you are 50 presenting symptoms for the first time, it's not organic. Organic means that it was, something that within you that is not chemically balanced. Therefore, it yielded into this illness, right? So when it's organic, schizoaffective schizophrenia is going to present before the 20s. And that's when you start getting into medication. And with the proper medication, you can have a good life,
Hmm.
right? Because there's where the chemical imbalance is what's being treated by the psychiatrist, right? So the psychiatrist is the key holder in that treatment process.
Hmm.
Therapy helps, yet it's a different type of therapy from the type of therapy that somebody with depression comes in, or anxiety, or relationship issues, because it's a different type of ballgame, right? Now, if the person is unable to continue having a functional lifestyle, then they can be Baker acted. Baker acted means that either themselves or somebody around them is a threat because they don't have the ability to process proper behavior. So a Baker Act can result from anybody in the family. Anybody can request a Baker Act. All you do is call 911 and request that the person be Baker acted. And then they are taken to the hospital. They're evaluated by the medical team. The medical team sees if they're off medication, they place them on medication. If they are on medication, they reassess what medications they have to see if they can provide any new treatment for them. And then probably within 3 to a week, they let them go. They go back to the community. So you are correct. Depending on the team that is assessing that individual, there might be cracks in the system, because there are individuals that get familiarized with what to say and what to do when they're in those environments, and then they get dismissed like if nothing happens. And this is again because mental health is not giving a priority, I think, not only within the system that we're all part of, but overall as a nation.
So, do you, as a doctor of mental health issues, do you deal with every mental issue, or you have just a certain kind that you deal with? Because you just name so many.
Yes, there's so many out there, and that's why there's so many type of therapists. I personally like to work with adults 18 and up. My preference for that is because it's too emotionally, um, what's the word? It's too heavy for me to have to report abuse. And if the person is not consenting, then I have to call DCF, and there's a whole shebang that happens with that. So I personally don't like that for myself. So I prefer to work with 18 and up. That means you are at consent. If you don't want to report what happened to you, you are in that right. Any adult 18 and up has that right. And I am not liable if you don't report it, and I don't report it because you're an adult and you chose that for yourself. So I work with adults 18 and up. I pretty much specialize in anxiety, life transitions, substance use, anger, depression, and any type of changes that you're going through. Aside from what I usually see in clients, I also work with domestic violence, victims of domestic violence, those that have some sort of disability, those that have been in some sort of war or traumatic environments where there is some PTSD, which is part of the anxiety diagnosis. And what I don't work with much is the schizophrenia, the schizoaffective, and those that are needing to be heavily medicated because my role is diminished and psychiatry is the one that takes over.
Well, you still do a whole lot though.
Well, I really love my field, so I really enjoy learning from everybody and being able to contribute from what I'm learning from those that come see me.
I mean, it's a very tricky situation because a lot of people who suffer from mental illness like are really high achievers in life. You know what I mean? In other aspects of their life. I mean, it's like how do you look at somebody who's excelled at every academic level, can drive, can function, raise their kids, you know what I mean, and convince them that they have a problem. You know what I'm saying?
Ah, that's
When when when
yeah.
when you like when you like your bank account is like overdrawn, you standing at the bus stop trying to tell somebody like, yo, you need to go, you need to get checked out. Like, how do you tell me anything? I got a master's, and you know what I mean. Like, and a lot of times you find yourself, posed with that problem. Like a lot of, influential figures in life who've defined, certain, like I've heard Einstein, I've heard a lot of different people, suffered from mental illness, and I mean, and they were really high caliber, fully
Exactly.
functional people.
They was over smart people.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, well, that's where we go back to the narrative. And when I mentioned that we go from mental health to heart health,
Mhm.
it's really that.
Mhm.
It's not that you have a problem. You just have repetitive behaviors that you have maintained for a long time that might not be assisting you any further,
Mhm.
right? Because if I have been, I work a lot with drug addiction. If I have been a drug addict for 30 years,
Mhm.
that has served a purpose in my life.
Mhm.
What that purpose was is for me to answer on my own, but most times it has to do with me wanting to experience some sort of joy because my life is icky, right? And it's been icky, and I haven't had the tools to know how to process all the emotions, all the trauma I went through. And I find myself ashamed and guilty. And with all these things that are part of my narrative, that today I decided to change that. So now I can see what repetitive patterns I've been maintaining. What have I been telling myself? How is that truth or not? Because oftentimes the narratives that we keep up become, in a way, a lie that we're telling ourselves
Mhm.
because it doesn't apply today. It applied yesterday. It applied 20 years ago. It applied when it started, but it doesn't apply today where you want to go. And that's where we come in, or people like me come in and try to remind you that there's other options, other perspectives, and we need to expand that perspective that you've been telling yourself so that you can see that for yourself.
What are some of the things that um you would classify as mental illness? Some behaviors that are kind of like overlooked, or people just kind of like they seem to be normal behaviors because they've been happening and they continue to happen, but like, you know somebody probably wouldn't even know that they had it, and even if you tried to tell them, they'd be looking at you like you're the one
Yeah,
That's
that's why I asked you the
yeah. Like
question.
what
The
some of those
symptoms.
things that go overlooked? Like some of those.
So the favorite one nowadays is anxiety. Anxiety and all its subdivisions,
Mm,
right? There's a all of us experience anxiety because it stems from fear. So if you have ever felt fear, you experienced anxiety. The only difference is the more it accumulates, the more intense it becomes. So therefore it ups a notch on the diagnosing, right? But if you come in and you're like, my, because I get some of these people, and when I say people, it's individuals. I get some people that are like, I'm here because my partner says I have a problem, but I don't have a problem.
mhm,
Okay, then why is your partner or family or loved one saying you have a problem? Well, because I don't communicate well and I do this, that, and the other. But, that's just me.
mhm,
Okay, then what do you want to achieve from that? Nothing, because I think I'm good. That type of client is probably not ready to open up a different narrative.
mm,
So even if I try my best, if they are not in a place where they want it for themselves, they're going to continue on being the way they are, functioning the way they are, going to work, being okay, and then asking themselves, why does this keep happening to me with different partners?
mhm,
And there's going to come a point in time, or not, when they say, okay, let me see this further. And that's when the therapy begins. Now, there are other clients that come in and say, well, my partner, says this, that, and that. Okay, do you agree with any of that? Yeah, I can see that I'm not emotionally available.
mhm,
I don't cry. I don't talk about my issues because that's just for me, they're nobody's business. That's for me to handle. Okay. And how has that worked out for you? How heavy do you feel when those emotions come in and you just bottle them up? Where do they go?
mm,
So most often when you ask where do they go, the person says, I don't know, they just, I forget about them. Okay, so that's where you provide a little bit of psychoeducation on we don't forget anything.
mhm,
And I usually bring up a soda can that I say, okay, imagine a soda can. And for everything that happens to you, we're going to throw a rock into it. Okay, rock one, rock two, rock three, rock four, 20 rocks, 30 rocks, 50 rocks. Is it going to overflow? Yes. How is it overflowing for you? Do you want to work on any of that? And when the person is ready, they're like, yeah, I want to work on this. And that's when you start opening up a different perspective and the person starts opening up to new possibilities for themselves, even though they started with, I'm okay, I got it like this.
Now you do so many cases for different kind of abuses. What are your most popular ones? Because you say you do mental abuse, physical abuse. I mean, not emotional abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse. What are the most popular ones that you seem to come across?
Unfortunately, in the age range of the 20s, I see
mm.
Hmm.
a lot of rape and a lot of Uber rapes.
Oh wow,
Wow.
wow.
The girl was drunk. She got into an Uber, woke up in the middle of the night somewhere else, and doesn't know what happened.
Oh wow.
Right? So I see a lot of rape in that scenario, in that age group. When we go into the 30s, it's a lot of trauma from parental dynamics. So it's a lot of neglect or verbal abuse from parents, especially those within my generation, right? So I'm in the generation of the 40s. So the 30s, the 40s, and the higher ups, they experienced a lot of verbal neglect.
Mhm,
And if you go into substance abuse, a lot of emotional neglect, a
mm,
lot of parentified behaviors because there were parents that didn't have resources or weren't to drugs themselves. So the young kid at the time had to care for the siblings, had to figure out how to find the food, had to figure out how to get them to school, had to figure out how to hide all the bruises that were happening at home. So that type of abuse.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Wow. I mean,
Isn't this so enlightening for the people for
yeah, man,
be
definitely, definitely,
you know
definitely. If you're if
yeah,
you're on the
yeah,
live right now, share the live, please.
yes,
If
good.
you're on the live, share the live. Welcome to everybody that's here. If it's your first time over here, this is Overall Settings, the podcast that differs. Nights like tonight exemplify why we stand firmly upon that mission statement. You know, we're definitely one of the platforms that's here to change the narrative on on every level, from every facet and every aspect of life, and from our little corner of the world, from whichever way we possibly can. Our objective is to always try to, not necessarily change the world, because that's a very tall task, but if we can make a positive difference within someone's life,
One
then
person. Remember,
hence
we always say if it's just even one
then then
person,
then hence
it's make a difference,
then
right?
hence we've made a positive
Yes.
difference within the world. You know what I mean? And you know, to those of you who feel, like people are trying to bury you or ostracize you for whatever deficiency it is you may face in life, when they bury you, just tell them that you're planting a seed. You
But
know what I mean? And you
yo,
know what happens when
it,
you plant a seed.
this is so. This I mean, I have this is on a whole nother level to the fact that you don't never know who's watching or who's been through some things that's seeing this and they're saying to themselves, "No, I
Most
can talk
definitely.
to somebody. I
Most
can see
definitely.
somebody."
Most definitely.
You
Most
know?
definitely. Most definitely. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, the lines are open. You know what I mean? So if you want to engage in the conversation, I mean, you can do it via the comments. If you have an issue that you're having right now, if you know someone that's having an issue, they can call in. I can give you a number. We can disguise their voice, whatever the case may be. Like, that's what we're here to do. You know what I mean? Like, these type of things, go unnoticed all the time. Anxiety will make you have a problem and try to deal with it all on your own, and you don't necessarily have to do that. You know what I mean? Sometimes you might even get turned away because you don't have medical insurance, or it might be COVID restrictions, or you just simply don't have the resources. If you're on this live right now and you're having any type of issue that we
Sometimes
can help you with,
they just
just
feel
call.
like they are afraid.
Yeah,
Sometimes
call,
they just feel like they're afraid.
comment, and and,
There's
and and
no
I'm
one
sure
there, or they feel ashamed to step forward to ask for help.
And I'm sure Yadi,
You
will
know?
answer, any question that she's in the position to answer right now. I mean, I'm, whatever it is, we can all try to come up with some type of solution together, but by no means should you stay there and suffer from wherever you are if help is there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and like I said, we don't have to see you. We don't You could just write it in the comment. You could take somebody else's phone and write it in the comments, like, anonymously, and we can answer it. You know what I mean? We can
Use a
inbox
false
you.
name if you want.
Yeah, definitely. You know what I'm
You know?
saying? Um, how what are some of the personal disorders that you come across?
Personal as in my own or
No, no,
personal
no, no, no.
in
Like personal, because I know there's, like, like you said, you have substance abuse, and you have people who have personal disorders. And I mean, like, as far as, like you said, you mentioned like sexual abuse. I mean, sexual. A lot of people who tend to, I don't know how you would, like you say, like multiple.
No, I
If
mean that
multiple having like multiple sex partners and stuff like
no,
that,
but
that's a
Okay.
sign of mental illness, correct?
the
or
one that
or
really
a
touched
mental.
me though, bro,
What?
was that Uber when she said so many people with
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
Uber
yeah, yeah,
issue
yeah, yeah, yeah,
being raped. I mean, I'm
yeah,
like
yeah,
kind of like, really? Is it that deep?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I can see that happening, bro. There was a girl in Florida. It wasn't necessarily a Uber thing, but this dude was like so enamored with this young lady, and she just was living in an apartment. It was like probably our first apartment out of our parents' home. She was only 19 years old, and the groundsman kept making these advances to this girl, and eventually, you know, after she like shunned him or whatever, he literally kidnapped the girl and killed her, bro. And then he actually killed himself before, they caught on to, who it was. Like it was a big story down in Florida. You know, so you'd be surprised, how many people are subject to things that they probably won't even take
Mhm.
notice of, or around people that who seem to be functional enough to have a job, or functional enough to live their life, but they have some type of mental deficiency that might even cause them to act in a manner that might be detrimental to
And that's
others around them.
and that's what pertaining to what you said. That's what I was gonna ask her. Like someone who does something like that. I mean, is do they show signs of just being mentally, 'cause for you to do something like that, you're not normal.
So that is where, you guys were saying mental deficiency. It's not really that there's a mental deficiency. It goes back to organic and non-organic conditions, right? So a organic condition would be a psychopath, for instance, right? Psychopaths are have been studied and have been determined to have a different type of brain, to say it simply, right? There is a chemical imbalance that is very significant in them. So that is why they don't experience guilt or shame in the same way as some other people do, because their brain is literally working differently, right? So calling somebody, oh, you're a psychopath, is a very strong term that is used incorrectly, because we tend to say, oh, you're psychotic, or oh, you are bipolar. They have become very common words that are not really signifying what they represent, right? So a psychopath is definitely somebody that is going to experience the world very different, because organically they are different, right? Now, aside from psychopaths, you have people that experience anxiety, depression, substance use, trauma. Those are not necessarily organic. Most of those are a produce of the environment and experiences they have experienced, they have lived. So anxiety stems from something that happened that created a lot of fear in you. And this is where I like to simplify diagnosis. Anxiety is nothing but fear. So if you want to understand why you're anxious, we have to start looking into what is making you fearful. Depression is nothing but sadness, accumulated sadness that has been with you for a long time, becoming part of your life, becoming part of your narrative. So what is making you sad, right? Then schizoaffective, schizophrenia,
Hmm.
those that are a little bit more intense, from my perspective, it's because the person decided that having an alternate reality was safer than the reality they were experiencing. So they go into a different a different world, literally,
Do
right?
you deal with schizophrenia?
I have had patients with schizophrenia. I personally don't see them because, like I mentioned, usually that type of patient comes in when they are advanced in their condition. So they have been heavily medicated, or they are heavily medicated. So they don't have necessarily the tools to stay present and aware of what's actually happening because of so much medication. So they stay with medication. And that's another type of client. There are clients that are heavily reliant on medication because they feel that medication is their go-to for everything. And those clients are more likely than not to stay within the intensity of their symptoms, because they're not processing and supplementing the medication with something else like therapy or coaching or anything that expands the narrative. There are clients that are on medication and acknowledge that it's just a tool to get you to a place where you can then add on the different narratives and expand from that and then quit the medication. There are clients that don't want medication and that need medication
Mm-hmm.
but their strong will of not wanting medication also allows them to process things from a different perspective. The the not so fun story of medication is that the heavier meds you're on, the less present you are to expand your narrative. So those type of clients usually just go to a psychiatrist. They don't really do therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Um, how do all right? So usually the indications of someone who's experiencing mental ill, who's having issues within their mental health, they're exhibited to the people that are around them, first before they even get to the point of seeing you or any type of intervention takes place. So what what are some of the signs that us who aren't professionally trained, you know, what are some of the signs that we should look for? What are some of the ways that we can help assist these people and even convince them that hey, there is an issue, and even get them to the point where you know they could seek help.
Okay, so usually the tell signs are that they start retreating and start saying no more often than yes. So, hey, so and so, do you want to go out? No, I'm broke. Okay. Hey, so and so, do you want to go out? No, I have something going on. Okay. Hey, so and so, can I come over and see you? Oh, you know what? I'm not going to be home. Isolation, right? You invite them, they say no. You want to go see them, they're not as available. You want to celebrate something with them, they don't want to participate. So those are the tell signs that something is definitely happening, right? And that's where anxiety and depression are most common. When it comes to a little bit more intense diagnosis like schizophrenia or schizoaffective, if they're organic, you're gonna see them that maybe they are with you and they start being overstimulated by their environment. It's too noisy, it's too much, they're getting overwhelmed, it's too many people, and maybe you catch them mumbling something to themselves often. And that's called a, you know, perceptive this perceptive experience, because they're talking to themselves because something's happening inside of them, right? And then when you ask them, hey, what were you saying? Nothing, because they're ashamed of those perceptual disturbances and they don't want anybody to know, but they start becoming obvious, right? They also experience paranoid ideation. Oh, I think somebody's following me. Oh, I think that somebody wants to get me. I don't know, but I feel like wherever I go, there's somebody there. That is more along the lines of schizophrenia, schizoaffective conditions, delusional disorders, right? Those are the classical tell signs. Substance use. For substance use, the moment you get into the bar, you want to get drunk. You want to get drunk because you're so socially anxious that you want to get to a place where you're relaxed, right? So, bartender, give me a drink, make it strong. The bartender makes it strong. You're like, ooh, this is good, because you're trying to get to a place really fast so that you don't have to deal with what's happening inside, right? So, anxiety, that's actually anxiety. And a lot of people throughout COVID have been increasing their substance use because they're alone and they can't go out and they want to escape those feelings. So here comes the wine, here comes the virtual happy hours, here come I'm going to go and buy myself drinks and just drink by myself, right? Does that answer some of the
No,
questions?
no,
No, but
definitely,
on that
definitely.
note, I want to ask her this question. Maybe we as friends, maybe what are some of the little things that we can do to try to help that person to do realize they might have a problem, or try to help them in whatever way we can, so they can seek professional help.
Okay,
Well,
so
just to add
you
to that,
can.
just to add to that, without without making them
Yeah,
feel shame,
feel
and
uncomfortable.
Right, right.
without scaring them away or having them even go into more of a yeah.
So you share observations. That's all you can do. So you say, you know what? I've been noticing that whenever we go out, you've been drinking more.
Mhm.
What's going on with you?
Mm,
Right? I've been noticing.
mm,
And then once the person answers no, no, I haven't been doing that, then that tells you where they're at with that.
mhm.
And if you push a little bit further, they might get defensive and be like, who the F cares, man? Mind your own business. Or why are you even asking me? Like, everybody drinks. What's the problem?
Right, right.
That confirms that something's going on,
Mhm.
right? Because a different response to that is, really? You think I've been drinking more?
Mm,
Why? Well, like today, for instance, we're here having lunch and you've had 3 beers in half an hour,
mm,
right? Did you notice that? You know what? You're the first person that tells me this.
mm,
But you're right. I hadn't noticed, that I've had 3 beers in half an hour.
mm,
So the conversations open up.
mhm, mm,
That's for substance use, right?
mhm,
For abuse, a lot in women, very sexually promiscuous. So we go out, I see my friend drinking, I see her talking to all the different guys. Whoever tells her, do you want to come over to my place? They go. And women, out there, you might say, no, we're liberated and we're independent. Be mindful of that and check in with yourself.
mm,
Because the more we're engaging in those types of behaviors, I have to ask myself, where is this openness to strangers coming from?
mhm,
And what I've seen personally is that there is a wall of protection where I don't want to have a serious relationship because serious relationships are abusive.
mhm,
So I disguise that with superficial encounters that are just sexual encounters, and I don't give an F about you. And it was a one night stand and we had fun and I move on to
mhm.
the next, right? So there's something going on when that is a consistent pattern, especially when it's supplemented with alcohol use or any other drugs that are involved, right?
While we're on that note, before we skip to the next one, okay, all right. So it's a common fact, that we even kind of mildly touched on it when we opened up the floor. All right. So a narrative that's been there forever. Um, I don't know if they say it here in America. I think it might be a universal statement, but they say guys or girls, you can't do what the guys do and
Still
still be
be
a
a lady.
lady. So, all right. So let's address that particular fact. If a woman is promiscuous, what I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
they kind of determine that, like you said, there's an issue there, and you know what I mean. But if a guy is promiscuous, and even like you said earlier in the relationship, it within our culture, infidelity and things of that
Yeah.
and that nature are kind of like not necessarily frowned upon. Isn't it kind of like a double standard if it's not looked at in the same manner?
Yes, yes, and thank you for asking that because a guy that's doing the same thing goes under the same explanation.
Mhm,
In actuality, the difference between guys and girls, from my experience only, is that guys indulge more in the drugs versus the girls indulge less in the drugs and more into being okay with having casual encounters,
mhm,
right? So guys, there's a lot of drugs that are heavier drugs involved,
mhm.
but it's the same concept,
Okay,
right?
okay.
If I go from casual relationship to casual relationship and you're like, how come you haven't been wanting to date? Oh, that's too much responsibility. I don't want any of that. How come?
Mhm,
Because if you're human, you want love.
mhm, mhm,
That's what I've experienced.
mhm,
And regardless of the age that you're in, you want to feel loved. And some of the promiscuity that I've seen throughout the years, including my father, when I've looked deeper into it, is because it's a superficial way of feeling loved.
mm, mm.
Yes, people.
I mean, wow,
Yes,
wow,
yes.
wow,
Tonight is
wow,
definitely
wow,
dynamic.
wow, wow.
It's a dynamic
Hold on,
night.
hold on, 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 hold on for a second. Hold on for a second. Hold on for a second. That requires one of these. No, no, I mean, without disclosing too much,
It's a dynamic night.
like that was, that was an aha moment. It's so definitely, just to kind of confirm what I just said. A woman who exhibits that type of behavior, there's clearly an issue there, and and for the men who naturally do it and who society kind of like upholds as the gigolos, there's also an issue. There's an issue there as well.
Yeah, and we can reframe with a blockage of something,
Okay,
right?
okay,
So,
okay.
for instance, I have friends that are in their 40s and that have casual encounters because they don't want to get married. They don't want a relationship, and that's okay. You know, you're entitled. Not everybody has to marry, not everybody has to be in a relationship. Yet, if you are not allowing yourself to be fully yourself with those people, then there's a blockage that encounter is just being superficial,
Mm,
right? And that's where intimacy has also been distorted,
mm,
because the moment I engage with you, I'm being intimate in some way, shape, or form.
mm.
But if I'm just keeping it this much, then what happens to the rest of the intimacy that I could be sharing? Where am I sharing that? Am I balancing it out, or am I just focusing on quick and easy fixes?
Right, right, right. And a lot of times, you tend to try to supplement or fill that void with other things. In relationships, that's a very common thing. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
your partner might be like short, lacking, falling short in certain areas, and
Mhm.
instead of trying to figure out what
What the
the
issue is?
situation is,
Yeah.
you want to compensate for that elsewhere, and that's what, it's like, I feel like, just from my own perception, and you can elaborate, correct me if I'm wrong, what I mean, but just from my own personal standpoint and my vantage point in life, I'm not anybody's therapist, what I mean, but I feel like I've been through enough trauma to kind of have a better understanding of what, I personally endure, and then being from the outside looking in, at certain things. I feel like a lot of times, like you said, life experiences, they don't necessarily define the individual, because everybody, but at the same time, everybody has a threshold. You know what I'm saying? And there might be something that I say or do to you that will tick you off immediately as I say it. And then he might be the guy that kind of just rolls off of his back, and you know and then, I might be the person that I don't react right away, but I let it like pile up until it just spills over, and then, I just explode. You know what I'm saying? So everybody handles adversity in a different manner, if you get what I'm saying. Uh
Mm-hmm.
and then, it's like, then you start to travel down that road of what's wrong and what's right, and and but then you have to allow perception into the conversation, because I can give you something, you read it, and he reads it, and I read it, and we all get a different meaning from what that
Mm-hmm.
is. You know what I mean? Which is what kind of causes that blockage between people who clearly, maybe unhealthy, mentally, you know opposed to somebody who might not be. When it comes down to perception, like I said, if you have somebody that's excelling at every level in life, may even be doing better than you, it's kind of hard for you to tell that person, like,
something is wrong with
Slow
you.
down, chill out. You get what I'm saying? It's kind of hard to relay that message to somebody who's, like I said, a lot of times maybe doing better than you financially or whatever the case may be. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So that's one of the things that I've experienced in life from a personal level. Um, I just wanted to share that. You know what I mean? Like I don't know
Yeah.
how. I
So
know.
those are the overachievers, right? Those are the ones that are overcompensating. And those are the ones that are disguised the best because if you're a human, you have something going on because life is happening and something's coming up for you. The way you go about it is what differentiates, if you're okay or not. But that's just a mask too. Personality comes from the Greek term, that signifies mask, the mask that we put on for the show. So overachievers, if you're like, okay, I see that this person doesn't stop and they go and go and they're super successful, but they just don't stop. They barely sleep. Do they even sleep? Like they're up at 5 in the morning. They're crazy. Their schedule's crazy. Okay, then you come and you ask them, why do you do all this? What motivates you? Oh, success. There's so much more to life, and what do you do with your time off? I don't like having time off. Okay, signal number one. Why not? Well, because there's so much to do. Okay, what happens if you don't do anything? I feel like I have to do something. Okay, why? And you just have a conversation. Well, I was taught as a little person that you have to succeed in life because if you're not doing it for yourself, nobody's going to do it for you. Okay, but how do you balance all that work that you're putting out there? Like what time off do you take? Like what do you enjoy doing for yourself, just for yourself? I don't have time for just for myself, Yadi. Like I have to keep it going. Okay, then what you are realizing, you, the one making the observation, is that this person is in constant anxiety mode that they have internalized as normal, right? But it's going to show up in the conversation when you ask them, what do you do when you're not working? Right? You have people that are, famous. Tony Robbins, motivational speaker of 30 plus years, who wakes up at 5 in the morning, part of the 5 a.m. club, always offering trainings, but he goes on vacations and he takes times between trainings and he goes and takes classes for himself and he does all other things that you can see that he's resting. But when there are overachievers that are not resting, it's because they're afraid of what happens when they have to face themselves if they're not doing something.
You mentioned so many different abuses. Is there one abuse that's most common to you that maybe you can say the person who's been the abuser? There something that that causes it, that very common, that they that out the blue they just want to be a different person, start abusing?
Trauma is usually the cause to any type of abuse. How you process the trauma is what's going to define how you present abuse in your current life or not. But the most common type of abuse is not being emotionally present as a caregiver.
Now, can that come from being also being abused yourself?
Of course. Yeah, because you didn't learn how to do it, they didn't do it for you, so this became your normal, your reality, and we can only share the reality that we were brought up in because that's the only thing we know with the next generation.
What are some of the tools that all right, you find yourself because love, you can't really choose who you love. You know what I'm saying? You could try to, but like you naturally love, who you love. That's just been the case with me. I mean, some people are compatible, some people aren't. You know what I'm saying? But when you genuinely love somebody, that's one of the most organic things ever. You know what I'm saying? Like um but you encounter, everybody comes into a situation, like if you weren't there from the concept of this person, conception of this person, you know what I mean, then you clearly don't know what they've been through. So like, even, a lot of times when you're in love and you're head over heels with somebody, you don't set the necessary boundaries in place, you know what I mean, to like, it's like somebody walks into your job, you and they want a job, they're going to get a background check. They're going to get all. So you don't really do that, within relationships.
Mhm.
If I say I'm going to lend my friend my car, you know what I mean, I'm going to lend my friend my car, but if he goes to Avis, you know what I mean, he's going to have to show that he has a valid driver's license. He's going to have to, they're going to check his driving record. They're going to make sure he has a credit card, that if anything happens to this car, he's going to be held responsible, and you know what I mean, things of that nature. And before you leave off of that lot, we're going to walk around that car and inspect it to the T. And you know what I mean? And relationships don't just happen like that. So you might find yourself with damaged goods sometimes, and
Mhm.
and you get into a relationship with somebody who has had that trauma that we're speaking of right now, who may have trust issues because of what they've been through. And then what I also notice a lot is, if you look at people a lot of times when they're in multiple relationships, they attract the same type of people when you really look at it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it kind of becomes a pattern, and like somebody who's in total complete contrast of the person that they're used to, is like they suffer in a sense, because you know what I mean, it's not what they're used to. You know what I mean? Like, so like, you might not even be looking for an argument sometime, but being as though they're so accustomed to it, it's like, and they have these trust issues and they have this trauma, they're automatically barking, "Ah!" You know what I mean, before you even, and that's not even your intention, but then
Mm.
you tend to become a part of it, because you're only human. You know what I mean? So like, what are some of the tools that you can factor into the equation to kind
Mhm.
of like
To try to
combat some
combat
of
that,
these?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where it gets a little tricky, because from the perspective that I offer, we it's not that we choose our partners, but we do choose our partners. There's trauma bonding. So for instance, I was raped, right? I was raped and I didn't have family support, and I've been having to figure out life on my own. And then I meet you, and you come from a good family and you've never been raped and you have a good job, but you don't feel that you've ever gotten the support that you needed. We share that trauma bond. We share that experience. So that's why we connect,
Mm,
right? It doesn't mean that you have to have been through what I've been through. And
mm,
sometimes it doesn't even look like there's any similarities between you and me,
mm,
but there are.
mm,
So when people say, "Oh my God, this ratchet person," or "I keep getting ratchet people in my life, why?" or "Why am I always in violent relationships?" If nothing changes, nothing changes.
mm,
So if you are not working on your stuff and working, processing, understanding, dissecting, expanding, you're going to be a match to somebody that is okay with your story and that you're okay with their story, because you're both in that bond, right? So we do attract people that are going to be a match to our puzzle. That could be for us to grow from that pattern because the person is reflecting it back to us, or grow from that pattern because the person is not reflecting it back to us. So we're being challenged to do it differently, but we are still attracting the partner that we're needing based on what we have going on.
mm.
That's a perspective that's very different from we don't choose our partners.
just drop the jewel on them. You know what I mean?
That's interesting though. So it's basically in some way or another, you and that person are attracted to each other, even if you
Yes.
see it. There's some attraction there that it's
Yes.
there.
even when
Yes.
it's even when it's a constant conflict for you guys to be together,
Yes. Yes.
there's something there that even supersedes the fact that you guys always fuss fight and you know what I mean, like
Yes.
it's a connection there that would just kind of makes you not want to walk away.
Yes, and it can go as deep as that partner is showing aspects that I've rejected within myself.
Mm.
So, for instance, let's say I'm chill, quiet, and proper and respectful, but then I'm with this guy who is the opposite, and people are like,
We're gonna wreck this time, right? A piece of the. I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it.
right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So I'm attracted to him because, or her, because they get to do what I don't allow myself to do. So I am so enamored by that because I'm like, ah, I
Wow,
feel liberated. Ah,
wow,
and then even though I get upset at that, because when we argue, that is very much present,
wow.
I'm still contributing because I like that because I don't accept it in me.
so
Damn.
so even though you're arguing and fighting and all this back and forth, and it's like, yeah, it's a click. It's something between you.
Yeah. It,
Hold on. To all the people that are here, to all of the
Yeah.
people that are here, please, 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 I'm begging you, if you're on the live, just press the subscribe button, please. I'm begging you. You know what I mean? If you're here, press the subscribe button. If it's your first time here, I promise you, we'll have more shows like this.
Yes.
Um,
And we're gonna have
there, there,
her
there's a
again too.
there's a wide variety of other things that we do on our channel. There's a full length movie there. We have a lot of different artists over. There's a lot of different things, you know what I mean, there for you to see and share with the world. This, is one of those things that is for the ages. This is one for the archives, you know what I mean? So like, share, subscribe. You'll get a notification every time we go live. That was my commercial break. Back to our scheduled programming.
And it's so amazing what she's just saying, that it doesn't matter, that how much you being with somebody and y'all argue and fight, and yeah, it's like it's a reason why. And then you think like, why don't why are we
But
going
bro,
through this thing?
it falls right under just what I was just saying. Like, she kind of gave confirmation and credence to what I was saying when it everything kind of boils right back down to perception. You know what I'm saying? Because like, you might not necessarily see what that attraction is,
Hmm.
but at the same time, there's a reason why at that particular time when things are on that, when you're at that pinnacle and you're barking at each other, like at that moment in time you really feel like, yo, this is it, this is done, it's over with, I'm out of here. And then the minute that you get right back down to you it's something that literally
Didn't make that
that you
happen.
that you didn't
Yeah.
even see, that you might not even see, that literally has you connecting with this person on a level, like you said, that you can't even imagine. Like, you find yourself missing that, just even the notion of that not being a part of your fabric anymore.
And
hmm
that right there was free therapy for a lot of people.
Yeah.
That was free.
We just dropped the gem, bro.
Free therapy for a lot of people. Right here on overall settings.
I mean, Yadi, I tell people all the while, the greatest form of wealth is knowledge. That you can give to anyone. You know what I mean? You can give somebody money and they blow it. You could give them so many other things that are useless at, but prove to be useless over time. The greatest form of wealth that you can give anyone, like I said, is knowledge, and one of the most valuable gifts that you could give anyone is your time. And you could have been in your bed sleeping, preparing for work tomorrow, or another session or a therapy, and you're here, and we
Mhm.
appreciate,
Yes.
love the fact
Yeah.
that you take the time out
Time
to,
out for us. We
not
really
only
do.
for us, but for future listeners, for, like we said, for those who weren't even born, because this one is for the archives, and somebody at some particular time, I mean, there's people on the live who are just
Read some of the
I
comment that the
mean,
people.
there's a, I don't want to say people's name wrong, so maybe you could correct me, but there's a Miss Calazo on the live right now. Ladania, Ladanis, or LeadaNys, Calazo.
Leodanis,
Yeah.
Koyas.
So she's saying that you're the best. You know, there's a Zalutius.
Solithius,
Yeah,
yeah.
Zalitius, that welcome, to the platform. It's saying Yari, I mean, like, there's a
What's that? Bell?
sin, well, a lot of these names. I don't want to say people's names
Oh,
wrong.
that
Pardon
name
me for
says
butchering.
Bell.
Pardon me for butchering your names, but there's a Sinti Pinsar. Thanks, Doc, and Timo basically had a personal message.
Look at this comment here.
Yeah, thanks, Doc. No, but
This
this one right
comment
here.
says, "Damn, that's me."
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You were describing some
Some
type of
yeah.
behaviors, and
And someone was
and
like,
someone's like,
"Damn,
"Damn, that's
that's me."
me."
you know.
But Timo had a very personable message to you that basically says, loving, caring, counseling can be a productive lifesaver. All of us face obstacles in life, independent and professional. Counseling can provide the foundation for living a more productive life. But then he also went on to say, he also addresses normal life stresses and trauma. When my wife was diagnosed with a terminal illness, she felt it proper to find a caring counselor to help our family navigate the challenges. And that speaks volumes of your character. I mean, like I said, what speaks volumes of your character is the fact that, like, you literally get paid to do what you do. This is your profession, and you're here at no cost to anybody that's going to listen to this or that's listening to this now. So that also speaks to your contribution to
And,
society, and your
yeah.
character on a whole.
And a lot of people didn't even say any words. They put up a lot of hearts. They put up a lot of smiley faces, a lot of thumbs up. You know, and that's just showing that you're doing great work.
Good evening to
Thank
HK.
you.
Good evening to HK Perry as well. Big up Shiftacular. What I mean? Shifty is here also. What I mean? Big up to everybody who's listening and who's gonna listen. This particular, I won't even call it an interview. It's a reasoning. It's an
Don't
enlighten.
do interview, bro.
It's an
Don't use that
enlightenment.
word.
So this will be available on this platform as long as this platform is here. It'll also be available in our Facebook group, overall setting, same name. It'll also be available on all of our podcast platforms. So may it be Apple, Apple,
Spotify.
Spotify, Google, uh, anywhere you get your podcast, this reasoning is going to be there. So it's going to be available on multiple platforms, whatever one is most convenient for you to listen. So you'll be able to access, this knowledge that's been dropped, and that's going to be continued to be dropped as long as we're here.
And thank you to all who participated and shared comments. And thank you to the both of you for reading them. I sent you all a big hug. You know that I'm very grateful.
And the last thing that I want you to do for us, since a lot of these people are here in support of you, I want you to look right into that camera and just please tell them to subscribe.
Not only that,
Please allow me to introduce you to the podcast overall settings, where if you haven't subscribed, please do so. They are individuals that are not only soulful, but that are wanting to create a change, a shift in your world by bringing you not only good music, good videos, good vibes, but good information. So please subscribe and see everything that they have to offer.
hold on, hold
See,
on,
and
hold
that,
on,
that
hold
right there,
on,
hold on, hold on.
hold on,
No, let me
hold
just
on.
say one thing
Yo,
before you
no, no,
say
no.
something. One thing, one
What?
thing, one thing.
What?
So usually, Yardi, what happens is every artist that comes over, they do a thing called like a dub plate, which is like, you listen to a drop or whatever on the radio and be like, hey, this is Gloria Estefan, and whenever I'm in Miami, I'm listening to WKB. So that was your dub plate. Go ahead.
Now, we always want every one of our guests to tell all of the listeners where they can find you, how they can reach out to you.
They can definitely find me on Instagram. My handle is evolve underscore in, coming from the concept that we evolve from inside of us. So evolve underscore in, that's my IG handle. You can also find me on my webpage, which is www.morethantherapylmhc.com.
Mm.
And that's again www.morethantherapylmhc.com. And you can also text me, right? You can find me through Psychology Today with my name, Yariela Sequeira, and you'll have access to a profile giving you a little bit of me and the phone number that you can call me at.
Mm. Wonderful, wonderful.
Anybody that you want to send a shout out to right now?
Well, once again, thank you, to Shifty who made this possible, to obviously you guys and overall settings for having me and allowing me to share a little bit of what I've seen and experienced, to myself for showing up and letting me share with you guys what I would love to continue sharing on, and to all who supported, participated, commented, who are going to watch this later on and who are just interested in not only listening to me, but what these guys have to offer. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
I mean, and once we like we said, we're all about changing the narrative. And there's always gonna be a need for people like you in society. You know what I mean? And because like I said, it's one of the most, it's a taboo subject in a lot of homes. A lot of I feel like it's like I showed in the video earlier. A lot of times there's a stigma that's put on it that makes people even afraid to address it. Whatever deficiencies they may be having, whatever void that needs to be filled, you know, is not being filled because of their reluctance, because they feel like people are going to judge them for whatever it is they're going through, when the reality of the situation is we all have some type of deficiency.
Yep.
Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. And I mean, like, there's not one person who does not have an issue. There's not one person in this world that's literally, like, we all have
But bro,
ups and downs in life. You know what I'm
bro,
saying?
did you hear what she said?
Mhm.
She also sees a psychiatrist.
Yeah, exactly.
So that right there speak within itself, like
Mhm.
no one should feel any way
Mhm.
about stepping out and coming out
Mhm.
with the issue that they have.
Right.
Right. We
So
all have hard issues. And hard issues, I mean emotional issues, sadness, anger, depression, anxiety, fear. If you're human, you're going to experience something that's going to leave an impact in you. We call them imprints, and it's up to you to decide your options as to how to process those imprints. So there, it's not about mental health. It's more about heart health. What are you carrying here that you want to liberate, that you want to release, that you want to shift, that you want to expand from, right? And I think the stigma is because it's just mental illness. It's not really mental illness, it's heart blockages.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
That was very prolific. Very profound words from, someone who obviously specializes in that area. We're gonna talk more. This is not gonna be the last time that you come over here. Based on your availability. I mean, I wouldn't mind, you know, of us, kind of talking off the air about what we could do to like help people on more of a regular basis. May it be that, we find a way to like join forces, and you can have like a slot like mental Mondays or whatever the case may be. Like we might be able to like put something together where it could even be just 15 minutes. You know what I mean?
I would love to. I would love to. I'm all about giving back to the community. I
Right,
host community gatherings once a month for free, so it's definitely up my alley. I count me in.
right, right. So that'll be definitely something that we'll talk about, and and we'll find a way to build each other, so that we can build collectively, build others, what I mean, and that's what it's all about. And like I said, when you want to make a positive difference in the world, start by making a positive difference in at least one person's life, and hence that
Mhm.
person inhabits the world just like you, so therefore you've made a difference, and that person might go on to make a difference in other people's lives as
Maybe
well.
millions of people
Yeah,
life.
man.
You just never know.
So you're never buried. When you're buried, it's just more or less the seed that's being planted,
Mhm.
and it sprouts. You know what I mean? So try to just make a positive difference in the best way that you can, while you're here. And Yadi, you've definitely done that tonight. We can tell based on how you the people are responding to you, that you've touched, so many along the way. I mean, it's just so many different, keep coming back, and great info, Yadi, and hurt people, but the
Yes.
cycle can be broken, and what I mean. So there's a lot of people have taken, something from this, and people are saying, yes, hell yeah, come back, we need her over here, and what I mean. So like I said, once you come over here, you become a part of an extended family, so we're all settings, and I mean, so even though you already have like a title behind your name, we put settings behind that now, so what I mean, you're one of us. So if it's even, you just need a platform, a soapbox, and I mean, to stand up on, just to get something out there, send it over, or come on over, we'll send you a link, and whenever you're ready, let's make it.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. It was a pleasure for me to join you guys. It was a pleasure for me to share. I am totally in continuing to having these conversations. So thank you. Thank you again. I couldn't thank you enough, because without having platforms like the ones you are offering, I couldn't be doing this in the way that you guys offer it. So thank you.
Thank you, and we salute you.
It was definitely therapeutic for me. I don't know about anybody else, but
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
I've taken a lot, from
And
this. You know what I mean? And everybody that's watching and who will watch in the future on our multiple platforms, I hope that you guys can take something from it as well. And like I said, it's not carved in stone, but we've got a verbal confirmation that this won't be the last time Yadi's here. I don't know how frequent we can make it happen, but we're going to discuss that off the air. So you can look forward, you guys, to her being here again. So that's just another reason for you to subscribe and get that notification
and
whenever
share
she's,
and share
yeah,
and like.
like, subscribe, and share. And this video will be available immediately after its ending, so you can share this link with as many people as you like. anybody who you feels like needs to hear this.
And if you need to reach out to her, reach out to her.
Any
Yes, please.
anything
Yes.
any closing statements, Yadi?
Well, for those, since you guys had reached out, I offer free consultations over the phone. So you guys can give me a call. We can talk for a bit, see if I can be of any service. And if so, then we can coordinate from then. But, just if you want to ask me a question, I am open to answering your questions. So don't feel like you have to pay for you to get me to share something with you. You don't. I generally do this because this is what I love to do. And I am going to offer it for free, whether it's I can help you or not. I'll share resources.
Yeah, so our platform can be like another outlet for that. So, whatever means you're using to get the word out there now, we can also we could do like something like called Ask Yadi.
Yeah, ask Yadi.
Even if it's just like questions that they put in, and we
Yeah.
can just give them to you, and we can do like a recorded man. We'll find a way to coordinate it.
Yes.
It's my mind is just racing right now because I see the potential in
Ask
something
Yadi.
great.
I like
Yeah,
that.
Ask Yadi. You know what I mean? That'll be dope. That'll be dope. Yeah.
That would be. I would highly, highly be all excited for it.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I think one of our most enlightening interviews to date, or reasonings to date. It was definitely something that everybody can take something away from. It won't be the last, and we'll continue to, do what we can from our corner of the world to change the narrative. And that's what it's all about. And Yadi, it's been a pleasure
My pleasure.
having you here.
Thank you.
And we
Thank you. Likewise. Likewise.
and we look forward to like I said, having you back over here as soon as
Yes.
possible. And we'll be in touch.
Yes.
All right.
We'll definitely be in touch. Have a good night, everybody. And thank you again for everybody who joined.
All right. Take care. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, how great was that, yo?
Oh man.
How great was that? I mean, it's totally, I had a little butterflies at first, I mean, because I really didn't know what to expect, and when you have somebody that's professional in what they do, it's a little intimidating at times, I mean, so I had that little
You had a
trace
butterfly.
of anxiety for a minute, but she kind of like navigated us through it, and it was pretty dope.
Nah, I was good,
You
man.
yeah,
I
whatever,
was
bro.
good.
Yeah, that's because you had a little something to drink before you got here, but that's okay.
I was good.
Ladies
But
and
seriously
gentlemen,
though, that was some really,
yeah,
really
yeah.
knowledgeable, and we not have to stick to the same,
Nah, man. I mean,
cause that's not what we do.
no. I mean, like I
I
said,
know
it's
what we
it's
do.
we provide a wide variety of pro. Remember, this is a station, bro.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So this is not necessarily it's a channel. You know what I
Right,
mean? And back when you were a kid, you had your channel and there was a wide variety of programming
right,
on that
and
channel. So you might watch Dynasty, you might watch Alf, you might watch Different Strokes, you know what I'm saying? But you
and and
provide a
and
wide variety of
and it's not
programming.
like you just we had a professional doctor, bro. That
Mm.
was on this platform, was giving a lot of people knowledge. So it not get no better than that.
That one, I mean,
You know.
I consider myself a doctor of sorts, but I don't necessarily. But
I don't want to know what kind of doctor you
I
can
mean,
say.
Doctor Blue, like nah, 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 but nah, bro. I mean, I want to thank Shifty. I just want to thank
Big up Shifty.
yeah, man, big up Shifty. This was a good
Yeah,
look,
man.
and
Shifty.
it definitely
Enough respect.
was
Enough respect.
a great experience. Ladies and gentlemen, do remember we'll be going live from Steve's Sports Lounge tonight. It's our Sunday residency around at Steve's Lounge.
After dark.
It's called After Dark. That's our alternative programming. Some things happen over there. You better put the kids to bed because,
Well, you don't know where I got chance. Our way, you might say.
You know what I mean? All courtesy of Andrew's statement, the thing called Superstar Sunday, one of the best retro Sundays, and it's a virtual party, so you can join the party from anywhere you are around the world. Yeah. And you can log on to our channel. We have a full-length movie, and that's called Good Soup. Other movies are in the works. We just had Wayne Wonder over here last week. You weren't a part of that interview, but it's cool. Don't worry,
that's all right. I'm not even good, man.
No letting go, no holding back. You want to hear that? But overall settings, the podcast that differs, ladies and gentlemen. We do this for you guys. We do this for you, and we're going to continue to do it for as long as we can. We'll bring you some more of the yachties of the world, and we'll continue to enlighten you as much as we can, and be open to being enlightened as well. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what it's all about. It has to reciprocate. It can't just be a one-way deal. You know what I mean? So that means you need to listen to me sometimes. And even though you're substantially older than I am, you can kind of listen to me when I tell you things. I didn't mean to put your age out there like that.
I listen to anybody with good advice.
Okay, all right.
Anybody with good advice, younger, older, don't matter.
All right.
And
handsomer.
I love to learn.
Is handsomer even a word? But I mean, it's cool.
Even if it's not, you're gonna make it your word.
Okay, bro. All right, people. Like I said, our full-length movie "Good Soup" is out. All courtesy of Richard Brown Films and overall setting. Bro, are we like a film company?
A party. We have a party after this,
right,
so don't forget to tune in.
Yeah, we're gonna party. We're gonna party. So
we have a party.
Here's the trailer for our movie. You can go over to our channel and check it out.
You there, sister?
Yeah, we are looking for you on B10.
Pico. How
How are you?
I'm here, Sister Candy. You know remember me?
Like third time this round week, man. I say, you have to give me a number.
For real, I'll give it to you this time.
After me, I'm gonna make you burn up like how you burn me up for really. Sky, where you go?
Daddy.
Me and Candy, a sister and brother.
After we do something together.
Oh, Daddy.
What about my daughter? Peter, where you there, son?
You know, say, Sky, me, call him.
How are you going in, sir?
The face, the doctor found for
Doctor, yo, where are you doing on my place?
Where you and Peter now?
Catch Peter over my yard. Now my bed is no man.
Tell them this, me go sudden. Lock me up and pop me up and tell them throw away the key, girl. It's me for you and you for me, and that's the way it's got to be. To me, girl. Some say the wrong could not be right. Just see this love I show to you, girl. Where by my side is real, just stay so we can see each other's true. Tell them this, me go sudden. Well, lock me up, pop me up, and tell them throw away the key, girl. but I'm just a stranger in your town who shouldn't be around. And I'm standing on solid ground. Your people try to keep me down and them take me for your clown, but my love for you is safe and sound. They claim me leading you astray, and it's then you feel your bed. Well, that's all fine and okay. It's just the price we have to pay with them standing in the rain. But for me, then you come brighter days, love. Lock me up, pop me up, and tell them show away the key, girl. It's me for you and you for me, and that's the way it's got to be. To be, girl. Some say I'm wrong, could not be right. Just see this love I show to you, girl. But by my side is will you stay so we can see each other true. Tell them this, me go sudden. Well, lock me up, pop me up, and tell them show away the key. Tell them this, they claim that they're on to me, and all that I want to be is the beneficiary on the policy. Them don't acknowledge me without any apology. Coming from another place, there's no equality. My friends don't understand this love, nor your friends as well. But you know the birds of Robert nest are only time will change. Well, my sweet